All right, greetings everyone. Welcome to another Cross IT Lunch and Learn. Your presenter today is Laura Betts, and she is going to be reviewing all of the different products that make up the Claris FileMaker platform and how all of those work together. So be sure to leave your comments or ask your questions. If you do so, you'll be entered into a drawing to win lunch on us. When you do that, please make sure you leave your email address though so that we can contact you. This is being recorded, so you can watch the replay if you've missed anything. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Laura.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Like you said, I am talking about an overview of Claris and its products. Claris is a subsidiary of Apple, and it is #1 as a work innovation platform. Now, Claris has two different products. Those are FileMaker and Connect. FileMaker has a bunch of different products within it: Pro, Go, WebDirect, Server, and Cloud. It was acquired in 1988, so it's been around a while to have all these different services and things that are involved with it. It actually was created earlier than that, but was acquired by Apple in late 80s, early 90s. But more recently is what they acquired in 2019 from an Italian company named StampPlay, and renamed to Connect when they acquired it in 2019. Connect is a work automation software, and it makes it easier to integrate several apps together. Here's a little picture of how things flow together. I'll talk a little bit more about each of these things, and then you can get an idea of how this mapping sort of works. First thing that obviously would like to talk about is FileMaker Pro, which is what I'm using right now for this presentation. And if you've seen other Lunch and Learns, and of course if you watch Lunch and Learns in the future, we'll be using FileMaker Pro a lot, so I won't spend too much time on it. But basically it's an application that can use like any other applications where you enter data or click buttons or do anything with. But you can also create custom applications through this. So if you want to build something for a customer, that can be built with FileMaker Pro. Originally, it still is based on a database engine, in which that means it has like tables and fields on it, in which also the tables are relational, so you can relate them together to make a database. It is evolved from there to be a custom application, but also it is cross-platform, so it works on Mac and Windows. And in building the database, you can build for the other products of Go and WebDirect. Now, when building things in FileMaker, you have a nice user interface to build the tables and fields or scripting. But if you're doing the custom application part, you can also build layouts with it. So I built custom layouts for this presentation here, and you've definitely seen it in other Lunch and Learns if you watch those. If not, go do so. And these layouts not only are built for FileMaker Pro, you can also design for Go and WebDirect, which has their own different limitations or things that you should or shouldn't do. But a fun fact about FileMaker Pro is it started as a MS-DOS based computer program named Nutshell, developed by Toshiba Systems before it was acquired by Apple Claris. Next thing I wanted to talk about is FileMaker Go. FileMaker Go works on an iPad or iPhone, and you can get it on the App Store for free. Now, I said we can build it in FileMaker Pro for FileMaker Go, but like any other applications, design things to keep in mind is there's usually a smaller screen, and you will be most likely be touching things on the screen instead of having a precise mouse click. So you have a smaller real estate but need to have like bigger buttons to do that. Now for uses for FileMaker Go, there is the mobility of it. So maybe you can't have a laptop, but you can carry around an iPad, and you usually will have your phone on it. So let's say that you're in a remote place like a machinery plant, and there's stuff that you definitely can't do a laptop, or if you're in the middle of a forest but need to record something or take pictures, it's a perfect way to use FileMaker Go, in which it can be in those remote places. You can have that file and then sync it locally when you're into a place that has internet connection, or if you're in a place that has internet connection, you can actually connect to a file on a server. Now, this also is good for integrating with features of the phone, like scanning barcodes or QR codes, or making phone calls or directions to places. You can get that set up on the desktop too, but it's just much easier when it's built with Go on the phone. So the way that Go looks like, the current version right now, is this icon, Claris FileMaker Go 19. Now when you look at it on the iPad on the phone, over to the right, you can see that there's dark and light versions. Also with FileMaker Pro, it can work with a darker light mode too. There's 4 different tabs at the bottom: My Apps, Favorites, Recents, and Hosts. You can see that even though they're both on the My Apps tab, that the iPad has more things you can click on because it has bigger real estate, but they both still have pictures of apps that are available. The next product I want to talk about is FileMaker WebDirect. So FileMaker WebDirect, you can only access it through the browser. Some supported browsers are Safari, Chrome, Edge, and Internet Explorer for older versions. And the way to get to it is using the URL http:// the host of where the file is actually located, /fmi/webd. Now to set this up, all FileMaker files need accounts, and then they have privileges, but then there's extended privileges. So FileMaker WebDirect has its own extended privileges, such as FM WebDirect. So that will need to be enabled, as well as the sharing will need to be configured. That can be different for different groups, or hiding or not hiding on when you go to the default web browser site. Another thing is that FileMaker there's different things that need to be set up on the server side or cloud to enable FileMaker WebDirect to work. So some uses for FileMaker WebDirect: since it is browser based, you can use it on Android blades and it's not limited to Apple. You also don't need to own an app, so you don't need to download from App Store or download and install a FileMaker Pro. You just go to the browser and type the URL in. And once you get that set up and you go to the link, it'll ask you to sign in. Unless there's no passwords enabled, then it will direct you to this sort of page where it has the list of all your apps that are enabled for WebDirect. If there aren't any, none will show. There's also ways to enable it for WebDirect but not have the app show. This is kind of important in case you have something like a different website that isn't FileMaker but directs to a FileMaker WebDirect. And when you close out the WebDirect file, you want to go back to that website, which you can set up. But if it somehow fails and gets to it and you don't want them to see this sort of screen with apps, you can definitely do that. So the next thing I want to talk about is Server, which I've mentioned a little bit before, but a little bit more about it is it's definitely used to host different files for access, whether it's WebDirect, Pro, or Go. And so you can have a virtual server or a real life actual server and set this up on it. And then there's different settings you can configure, in which you would need to go to the browser and then localhost :16001. Although you can also access the settings remotely through a browser if you go to the host URL :16000. Now, some of the uses, of course, are the hosting FileMaker files, which it has many settings to do that. But it also can automate scripts in case you need to schedule anything, have reports on different FileMaker usage. You can see who's logged in into what file. You can close it or do many different types of things. But some of the settings can only be done by command line, and and to use it, you would need to use FMS admin. Now, if you do FMS admin help, that'll show all the different settings that you can change within it. So a lot of settings can be done in command line. That is also can be done in the browser as well, if you find that out. And another thing I want to mention with Server is actually FileMaker Cloud. Now, one of the main advantages of this is you don't need an on-premise server or virtual server, which allows a lot more access to by anywhere. Here I have listed a bunch of things that Claris says that Cloud has that FileMaker doesn't, and those are including something more like rapid development, more included security, and also more integration with other different applications. So something to consider with Cloud. Now we talked all about FileMaker. Let's talk about its newer product, Connect. Connect is a way to integrate different web applications together so that they can work very well together. So say if you have like a MailChimp form and you want a message to Slack afterwards, instead of you manually doing that Slack message after the form is filled out, you can set things up so that it automatically does it. So once you get access to Connect or get a license to it, you can go to connect.claris.com and you can log in, and it'll bring you to a page where it has your different projects under your company. Now, projects here, you can create, edit, delete. It's just a good way to organize your different flows that are within a project. And flows are basically different steps that it takes to either transfer data or has different things that people can react to, type of things. But the first step is triggers. And triggers are either started by real-time events, it can be scheduled in intervals, or use webhook utilities. Now, utilities are components, but another component is a connector app, and this is connecting through third-party apps, much like MailChimp, Slack, or Microsoft Office type of things. So again, those are different steps and components within a flow. So when you go into connect.claris, this is how it looks like. You have your projects here, which you can click your plus to create a new one. There's also templates here, so that they take it in some of the common ones that they've found people have connected together, And you can choose those so that you don't have to fill out as much to input what all you need to connect those two things together, or just to get an idea of how Claris Connect works. But generally, you'll probably want to make your own projects. And if you're wondering about different applications, it has a lot of different applications in which you can go to this website and look at it. But you've got, like I said, Slack, Twitter, Excel, Asana, Dropbox, Box, many different things you can integrate together. So that's a little bit of an overview of how all these different products work and how they all sort of connect together. So you can see that with a little map. But hopefully you learned something. I will turn it over to Todd for questions.
All right, Laura, we did have a few questions that came in here. So let's go ahead and dive into those. First question is, are you able to build apps directly in FileMaker Go?
No, the only way you can build apps is in FileMaker Pro, and that's for both Go and WebDirect.
All right, very good. Looks like we had another question here come in specifically about FileMaker WebDirect. Does the guest account work when you're using FileMaker WebDirect?
Yeah, if you set up your guest account correctly with the extended privileges and such, yes, it'll work.
All right, very good. Let's see what other questions we have here. Okay, here's one regarding FileMaker Server. What is the operating system required, or what operating systems can be used with FileMaker Server?
It works with Mac and Windows, and most recently Linux. So.
All right, very good. And looks like we have one final question. When you're setting up a flow in Claris Connect, are you required to use a connection to FileMaker at some point in each flow?
No, you don't have to connect to a FileMaker server or FileMaker app through server. There's a lot of different apps or utilities you can use instead, and you don't need to even touch it.
All right, very good. Well, those are all the questions that I see. I guess we can go ahead and conclude. So first, thank you to you for excellent overview of the Claris products. I want to reach out and say thank you to all the viewers who have tuned in for this serving of the Cross IT Lunch and Learn. Just a reminder, if you like this, please remember to click thumbs up and share this video out. If you haven't subscribed, we certainly encourage you to do that, and you can hit the bell to get notified. There's also a survey that you can find in the bottom of the description of this video. Please fill it out because we do want your feedback. Either a question you may have that we can answer on a future Lunch and Learn, or just feedback in general. Also, if you and fill out the survey, that's another way to get entered in for a chance to win lunch on us. All right, we are glad to have served you, and I think with that concludes today's Lunch and Learn. Have a great day, everyone.